Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Jason Down Podcast. I'm your host, James. Today we're going to be recapping Week 7 in the NFL. It was a pretty interesting week. Had a lot of teams that were doing good, and they took some losses. These teams took a loss and kind of, stooped them down a little bit as far as on the trajectory that they were heading on. And we'll talk a little bit about that as I go through some of these games and these matchups here. But make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Check us out here on YouTube. We're also on all audio podcast platforms. That means Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those things. So make sure you check us out there. Let's get started. So first thing is first, Week 7 started with the Broncos and Saints playing on Thursday Night Football last week. And Denver came in, and it was Sean Payton's return to New Orleans, all that kind of stuff. And, the Saints, of course, have been like on a reel. They've been losing a lot lately. At this point, they were down a lot of starters, offensive linemen, and some, their quarterback, of course, is hurt, Derek Carr, and some defensive players. The defense is really getting old, too. So, not the best situation. But even when they're healthy, I don't think New Orleans, they're an all right team, but they're not a good team. And, Dennis Allen probably needs to be fired. And Denver comes in and they destroy him 33-10 and ran for over 220 rushing yards. Really just came in. Bo Nix, he looked really good for the most part. He's still trying to, figure some things out, being a rookie and everything. But you can still see that experience he had playing all those college games in his collegiate career. He played a lot of college games, and you can tell, right? His decision making, while meaning to improve, he still, for the most part, is I would say an NFL ready quarterback. And it's just going to take probably a little bit more time, right? Denver now is 4-3. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games, and they got the Panthers up in Week 8. And realistically, they could move to 5-3. Because Carolina just got destroyed by the Commanders yesterday too, like 4-7. So honestly, the Broncos are kind of getting up there. This is the first time in years that they actually have a good quarterback prospect, like a quarterback they can actually build a trajectory with as a team, a franchise, because they haven't had that since Peyton Manning, and that was over 6-7 years ago. And since then, it's just been just revolving carousel of quarterbacks coming in and out, old guys, veteran guys, draft picks didn't work out, Drew Lock and guys like that. So moving on to London, Jacksonville played the Patriots there. Why do Jags always get London games? I've always wondered that. It's like every other week they're in London. I guess they just love, Trevor Lawrence, right? It's probably his hair. But they beat the Patriots 32-16. Drake May, he had a good game. Probably the best part about this game for the Patriots was Drake May. 26 of 37, 276 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Patriots could not really get anything going other than that. Offensively, they just weren't that good, and they just played very soft. And Jacksonville just came in and they played a good game for the first time in a while. So they moved to 2-5, and they, it seems like this is one of their every team has that get back game that they need to kind of get themselves back to how they know they should be playing. This is the Jacksonville team that we know that team that we should be expecting when they play on Sundays, or whatever day they're playing on. But this is the team we expect. They're going to come out there. Trevor Lawrence should play like a number 1 pick, but we don't get that all the time. So moving on to our next couple of games here, we move back to the A. Seattle and Atlanta playing. They beat the Falcons 34-14 here. Falcons just came out very flat. They just couldn't get anything really going. Offensively, they looked all right in spurts, but just Kirk Cousins didn't play his best game. 224-35, 232 passing yards. 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Not a horrible day, but still not good enough. Seattle just came out and played really good football. Geno Smith was very accurate with his passing. DK Metcalf played good, and Atlanta just they were on a good trajectory. They were at 4-2. And a lot of people were expecting, including myself, them to win this game and move to 5-2 on the year, sitting at the top of the NFC South. But unfortunately, they couldn't. They just had a game where they came out flat. They didn't look motivated to play. Looked like they were still asleep out there. And I played football for a long time, and I've been in those games where, you know, yeah, you guys come out with no energy, and you're like, you just offensive line's not really gelling well. You got a lot of penalties, false starts, people jumping off sides. Defensively, we got pass interferences, guys getting lazy and holding and stuff, and you know, you're not communicating on defense, things like that, right? Just those sloppy, lazy errors. But the thing, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to turn that around. You're supposed to come out, you're supposed to turn it around. After that, you have that next play up mentality. Say, hey, you know what? We've been, or the next half mentality. We got to wake up. That was Raheem Morris's message to the team, and they obviously didn't after the first half. And so, when you're a player at that point, you have to understand, like, okay, yeah, I played a bad first half or bad first quarter, whatever the situation might be. Now it's time to lock in. Next play, I got to give it 100% every single rep. Every rep is a new opportunity. Every play is a new opportunity to get better, to improve. They didn't do that, and so they ended up losing the game. Defense was just kind of Swiss cheese. I mean, they got just ripped up, and I'm really starting to believe that AJ Terrell was just very overpaid. Like, he is not that good of a corner. He's getting paid like a top cornerback in the league, and he's not. He gets beat a lot, and yeah, he makes some plays here and there. He's a physical corner, but sometimes that is a bad thing because he's very aggressive. He gets a lot of penalties. You cannot, you have to be able to find a balance between being a physical corner, but also playing situationally, playing smartly. You can't, the refs are going to call it every time. You can't grab, you can't do all that. You got to be able to play disciplined football as best you can. And, when the ball's up in the air, turn around and look for the ball. You drop back into your coverage, and you're running with the receiver, turn your head around, get your head around, make a play on the football, and that's like defensive back one-on-one, but he wasn't really doing much of that. So DK Metcalf ate him up. Geno Smith, like I said, good game, 207 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a pretty good game. No turnovers for Seattle. Kenneth Walker had 2 touchdowns on his 24th birthday. So up next for the Falcons, they got the Buccaneers right now. And honestly, going into Tampa, they're going to be looking for a revenge game. I don't know if the Falcons are going to be able to come out of that game to win. Honestly, don't. So moving on to the next matchup, we got the Bengals. They went into Cleveland and won. For the first time since 2017, they played good. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins played really good, and people were starting to say, "Hey, pay them! Like, you need to pay them both. Figure out a way to pay them both." And they probably do. The only problem with the Bengals is they are very one-dimensional, and this is really starting to become a problem for them that I've noticed watching their games, analyzing them. Their running backs combined for 48 rushing yards on 21 carries. This is not good. You have to be able to run the football, especially in the AFC. You have to be able to run the football. You're playing these teams when you get into the nitty-gritty of the season, when you're getting into the postseason, playing teams like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Steelers even now, right? You're going to have to be able to control the time possession. You're going to have to be able to run the football effectively and efficiently, get those yards on first down, positive yardage, keep the chains ahead of you, keep the chains moving, stay ahead of the chains, and control that time of possession, control the clock. The Bengals have not been able to do that. And so they moved to 3-4, but until they can find a way to get their run game going and not just be so one-sided, who just passing the football, they're not a playoff team to me right now. And if they are, it's their wild card exit. And the Texans and the Packers played probably was the best matchup of Week 7. Green Bay won 24-22. Joe Mixon had a good game on the ground for Houston, over 100 rushing yards, a couple touchdowns. He looks like he hasn't really lost much of a step, even after all these years. And, especially when he was in Cincinnati where they actually used him. He was, in the run game. But the Packers, Jordan Love, he had, Jordan Love, the thing about Jordan Love is he's up and down. He's up and down player. He's a good quarterback. He's a good prospect, very, very talented player, very intelligent player. The only thing is sometimes he can just be, like I say, up and down, back and forth. But this game, he had 220 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So we got to come back on turnovers, but overall, the Packers played a good game. Defensively, they held C.J. Stroud in check for the most part. Kept him under wraps, and were able to get down and sack him a couple of times. So for the Texans, they moved to 5-2, so they're still not in a bad spot. But this is one of those games where it's like you have to reevaluate some things. If you're the Texans coaching staff and figure some things out differently schematically that you should be able to do to put your players in a prime position to succeed. And they're going to have to figure some things out, probably pass protection wise with the offensive line. I think defensively they're young. They got a young good defense. It's they're just going to have to be better at playing opportunistically, situationally, playing football in that way. But the Packers got the win, moved to 5-2. They're playing good football right now. And another great game, was the NFC North battle between the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings, who were, of course, as we all know, they were 6-0 coming in. They were playing really good football. Brian Flores had that defense just playing like ferociously and fast, and physical. And they come into Detroit, and they were leading 10-0 to begin the game, but then Jared Goff kind of went off 22-25, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 280 passing yards. The Lions offense just looks really good. I don't know if there's anybody that can stop the Lions right now. Like offensively, they look really good. Defense, of course, they lost Aiden Hutchinson for the year, which is going to be a big blow. But offensively, they can produce at a high level up there with those teams like the Chiefs and the Ravens. Those really good offensive teams in the league. I would argue they're probably the best offensive team in the league right now. The Chiefs even aren't even up there. Yeah, they won yesterday, but they're still kinky right now on offense. So I would definitely say the Lions, to me, so far from what I've seen, have been the most consistent and vibrant offense in the NFL so far this year. Through 7 games. And yeah, they get the win. Big win for them. Like I said, I was impressed by what I saw. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to just be a phenomenal receiver. It doesn't get talked about enough how good he is. You guys, if the Netflix series Receivers, which I can't remember which one it's called exactly, but it's Receiver on Netflix. Watch it. Follows, Devontae Adams and George Kittle and Amon-Ra St. Brown and another player, I forgot who it was. But you see a lot about his background and how he just, his work ethic and eventually working his way up to the league. And he's one of my favorite players to watch. Especially at the receiver position. I love the way he runs his route. He's very crisp in that. He comes down pretty much with every ball. And Detroit got a good steal when they picked him up in the draft. So. But yeah, overall, just assessing that. Like I said, and of course. I can't forget the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Jets and the Steelers. Devontae Adams, his first game as a Jet. They lost 37-15 or something like that. I think I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me here. But they lost 37-15, I believe it was. It just couldn't really, the offense looked good in spurts, but again, just not enough on a consistent basis. And until the Jets are able to do that, they're not going to be able to win football games, especially in this AFC. So. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on the other hand, they started Russell Wilson to everybody's shock and surprise. After Justin Fields has been playing really well, they decided to put Russ in the game. He played well, for the most part, 264 passing yards, a couple touchdowns, no picks. And George Pickens played really good too. So they had a good connection going there. And now the Steelers are 5-2 in the year now? Yeah, 5-2. So they're they're playing good football. They're getting up there, and they're making their mark right now in the league as one of the AFC's better teams. And we'll get to see how far it goes. They probably they got they have a rougher stretch coming up in games, and we'll really get to see. As we usually get into this part of the year, it starts getting cold. You start getting to November, early November, towards mid-November. This is really where you start to see who the real football teams are, who these teams are. That are they really about it? Are they it's they gonna go out there and it's still, just like giving 100% each and every play, each and every week, go out there and get after it, right? Because it gets hard during the time of the year. It's cold outside, and you want to be. It's you gotta love fall football weather, man. But it gets tougher, especially and you play in those northern states, Pittsburgh and in the New York area, Buffalo and stuff like that. It gets tough, especially with the weather. But that's why we love football. So it'll be really interesting to see how these teams fare over the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to the postseason, which will be here very quickly. But yeah, that's pretty much wraps up my week 7 recap, guys. I just want to go and talk about that. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for more videos and everything, more content. Follow us on the socials, Jays with Down Pod on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter as well. And make sure again you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Jays with Down ! And we will see you next time on the show.